I knew him as Solus. Smart, thoughtful, loved to hear himself talk. But long ago, he had a different name. The Dreadwolf. Ancient elven god of lies, or heroic rebel against tyranny, depending on which story you believe. In his desperate fight against the corrupt elven gods, Solus imprisoned them, creating a veil that split our world from the raw magic of the Fade. He had won. But the veil cost the elves everything. Their magic, their freedom, even their immortality. Now, Solus wants to tear down that veil and undo the damage he caused, even if that means our world has to burn. Somebody's gotta stop him, and that's where you come in.
Hello everybody, it is Pazzi with my first Veilguard playthrough. I am beyond hyped. I honestly, just hearing Varric's voice again got me tearing up a little bit, which I know is ridiculous, but oh my, okay, let's get to it. So because I know I am going to take forever to explore this character creator, I'm gonna go ahead and create Meravas, and then I'll come back and show you her sliders and talk about her backstory and all that. So we will be right back. Well, what do you think? I gotta say, I think she is pretty spot on here. Oh, if you're new to this channel, welcome. I am recycling a character here. She is a discarded Inquisitor. Discarded sounds bad, but you know what I mean. I thought she would be better suited as a rook. So even though I've created her character once before, and I'm going to use that as kind of a template, she is going to get her full story here. So I started with preset number 4, which I can't show you or it will reset everything. But so preset number 4, I kept the head where it was, and then I started with the complexion. I went with this warm grayish tone, and of course her signature freckles, had to keep those. And yeah, from here on out I am just going to show you her sliders and I'll start talking about her backstory. So there are a couple reasons why I think a Qunari Rook makes sense. One is because I love patterns and organization and when things just fit together, and so I like the idea of playing a different race and class for all of my canon playthroughs of the Dragon Age series. So my hero of Ferelden, Lyra, was a warrior with the dwarven commoner origin who primarily used sword and shield or did some dual wielding. In 2, my hawk was an archery-based rogue, human of course, and my canon Inquisitor, Aislin Lavellan, is a Dalish two-handed warrior. Oh, I just realized she would have learned to be a one-handed warrior now. So anywho, that leaves Qunari and Mage, and I think I'm gonna give her the Spellblade specialization too, just for a bit of that dual dagger rogue feel as well. I also thought that since the prior characters were either cisgendered men or women, and that this is the first time BioWare is letting us choose a non-binary gender identity, that I might go that route with Mira because representation of diverse genders is important to me, but I also didn't want to force it. Like, with one of my Baldur's Gate 3 characters, Nyx, them being NB just made sense for who they are. But in my creation of Mira's story, she's always just been AFAB in my mind, so female it is. The second reason I think Qunari works for Veilguard is because of where the story is starting. With the Qunari invasion of Tevinter and the ongoing conflict between these societies, there are Qunari colonies right over the border, which is where Mira is from. Her backstory begins in a colony as she was coming of age and her abilities as a mage began to manifest. One, Tamasrin, who are the caretakers, recognized that because of the Qun's fear of mages and magic, this character would have either been made tranquil or used as a Cerebos. Ash fought a Meravas in the final battle during Trespasser. They're Qunari mages whose mouths are sewn shut, and they're not even considered people, they're weapons. So the Tamasaran knew her fate would be tragic, and in order to save her from re-education, the Tamasaran helped her flee the colony, which is why her name is Meravas, which in Qunlat translates to "so shall it be," because the Tamasaran probably knew that she was going to be punished for convincing Mira to leave, but so shall it be. It was the right thing to do, and the consequences will come what may. And so with that sacrifice as inspiration, rather than let the world tear her down, this optimistic, scrappy, now Talvashoth decided as a teenager that she was going to help other people escape the yoke of bondage by becoming a shadow dragon. So that's been her focus the last decade, while Aislin was saving the world and getting her heart broken by a god and whatnot, and that's where we meet up with her now. And I think the codename Rook also fits Mira's personality, because I know some people are going to go with the blackbird called a rook as inspiration, but I'm thinking more about the symbolism of the chess piece. A rook in chess is that little castle-looking one, and it's used for offense and defense, and yeah, so protecting and putting the hurt on your opponent. And it can move long distances, but always in a straight line. So when Meravas sees an injustice, she's going to jump in and fix it. Maybe leaping before she looks sometimes, but always with the best intentions, either protecting others from suffering or putting the hurt on people who are causing the suffering. Are other people going to headcanon that much about why their rook is called Rook? I don't know, but that's just how I roleplay. So yeah, she'll be a positive person with a bit of a wild streak. That is one thing that I want to slightly change between Mira 1.0 and now 2.0. My first Meravas was a bit of a goody two-shoes, like love that for her, but we're gonna spice it up a bit here. I'm thinking I'll go with mostly, sorry, of course I'm changing something last minute. I'm gonna go with mostly optimistic or sarcastic dialogue responses for her, I think. And I actually described her to someone as the kind of person who would make a silly face at a baby in the line at a grocery store just to hear it laugh. Which is such a strange description that I think only my brain would come up with, but it is also fitting. At her core, really, her most powerful drive is to seek freedom for herself and for others. She's a free spirit. That said, I do not think she's going to like Solus, because even though he's all about freedom in theory, I mean, he's trying to tear apart the world, so Mira's not going to let that happen. Also, when she gets to meet Aislin, she'll probably be looking at Ash like, girl, for real? Him? You sure about that? As for the romance for Meravas, I have no idea. I mentioned in one of my Veilguard trailer review videos that I was intrigued by Davrin and Nev at first look, but then Lucanus' story into Winter Nights really swayed me over to him, but then there's also Harding, and boy, I do not know how it's going to go down, but we'll see. I feel like I'm going to be saying that a lot. We'll see. I truly just want to let Mira naturally fall in love. I love love. I love romance. But I'm going to let Mira make that choice. No set plans for her right now. Okay, I guess since we're still going with these sliders, let's do a bit of housekeeping now. When I do the recordings for these episodes, I typically talk through the most important role-playing decisions as I go, but since this is a fresh playthrough, actually this is the first time I've ever played a game blind for the channel, which is a little scary, but just because of that, the pacing might be a bit more chaotic than usual. I might need to slow down to really think about what I'm doing since I won't be using guides. Again, kind of scary that I'm going to miss some things since I'm typically a planner. Also, one of the reasons why I think I'd be a terrible streamer, by the way, because I like to plan everything out. But because of that, I do edit my episodes for the channel. I'll never cut out anything essential. I just try to make the pacing of the story as enjoyable as possible. So you won't have to sit and watch me pick an armor or be in the character creator for hours on end and be indecisive. You know what? Positive self-talk. Be particular like that. So yeah, that's what you can expect from here on out in these episodes. And we're still going with these sliders. This character creator really is massive. We're not even using mods too. That just blows my mind. I mean, there are almost 50 horn types here. That's bonkers. I do love it. This horn type I like a lot. I did specifically choose silver. That is how I typically start designing how a character looks, by the way. I choose either gold or silver as a base, then I build the color palette off of that. So Meravas is silver with blues, purples, grays, more cool, though I did go with the warm skin tone as a bit of a contrast. And for my Inquisitor, we'll see Aislin with a golden palette of reds, browns, oranges, that family. I will say it was a bit difficult to completely replicate Ash just because the art style between Inquisition and Veilguard is quite different. I do love this art style, by the way, but it is different. So I'm okay with Aislin's new look being inspired by her old one rather than a direct copy. It has also been a decade, so who knows what has changed. Let's see what else. Oh, in character creation, I also try to showcase who the character is in the way that they look. So for tattoos and face paints, you'll see I didn't do any of that for Meravas because when would she have had time to get a tattoo or put on body paint? Unless it's practical, like Vitar. I mean, she's focused on rescuing people from enslavement for the Shadow Dragons, so she needs to be a bit utilitarian. Same with the ponytail style, something out of her face that she could put up quickly, but I still think looks pretty elegant. I did put some scars on her body because, like I said, she's a direct action kind of person. She looks before she leaps, so she'll be a bit banged up, nothing terrible though. I tipped up the corners of her mouth because I wanted her to look like she could always be on the verge of a smirk. You know, those things help the gameplay experience for me and help just make it feel more immersive. And with that, I believe we are done. And luckily, there will be a magic mirror, a mirror of transformation, in case we decide that we want to tweak something. Yep, good to go. Okay, on to class. So, like I said, we're definitely going with Mage, and while I do like this Spellblade specialization, we don't need to worry about that right now. From what I've read, I believe it is Evokers who are actually associated with the Shadow Dragons, like Nev is an Evoker, and it's the Antivan Crows who are associated with Spellblade, but I believe picking a faction doesn't lock us into a specialization. Right? I think. I'll be honest, I've watched many of the trailers, but I didn't do much pre-research into the combat system, so this will be a learn-as-we-go experience, though the whole class and specialization thing is one we've seen before, so I'm not worried. I mean, look at that. Be the Storm. Channel potent spells for close quarters combat infused with Lightning's Wrath. Very cool. And then, Faction. So for the Shadow Dragons, this underground resistance opposes corrupt rulers and slavery in Tevinter. Coming from all walks of life, they are determined to bring justice to the people. Light in the dark, so reputation with Shadow Dragons more quickly, never to rise, deal increased damage versus vanatory, and resourceful. Your class-specific resource regenerates slightly faster. And now for the backstory. Breaker of bonds. Rook risked everything to liberate the enslaved people of Tevinter, even knowing it would anger the ruling elite. The foundling Rook was adopted into a military family and joined the Shadow Dragons to fight from the shadows for change in Meravas. While guarding a visiting dignitary who was investigating a slavery ring in the nearby city of Nessus, Rook concluded that the mission would fail without throwing caution to the wind. Alone, she sneaked the dignitary deep into Venatori-controlled zones and brought him back, along with the rescued slaves. These actions brought Rook to the Venatori's attention, and the Shadow Dragons decided to keep Rook out of sight. Again, look before she leaps. And combat preset. It wants us to play on Adventurer, and I don't really want to increase the difficulty. Do I want to play on Keeper just for this first time? Oh, there's even one easier. Not Storyteller, because I don't want to get too bored. Why don't we try to play on Keeper, and then we can move the difficulty up to Adventurer, or higher, maybe, if we want. So yeah, here to build a party. Definitely. Huh, didn't save her name. You know, I gotta say, I think I like this starting armor, oh, and those are her jammies, more than the aspirational armor, weirdly enough. Maybe it's just me. Okay, let's fix the name. Meravas Merkar. And while I love Erika Ishii, they do feminine voice number 2, I think I like voice 1 for Meravas, which is Bryony Corrigan, the same VA who did Nine Fingers Keen in Baldur's Gate, as well as some other voices. And I just think her kind of raspy yet playful kind of quality to her voice really fits who Mira is gonna be. Let's hear it.
Time to get to work. What's he been saying now?
Right? Just perfect.
Well, we're not in trouble.
And that is that. Now Aislin. Like I said, I think she doesn't look exactly the same, but the vibe is there. I started with the second feminine elven preset, which already looked a lot like her. I really don't feel like I changed that much, but also go through her sliders maybe a bit more quickly this time. So I did change her face shape to be a bit more square, and I took her skin tone up a couple shades, kept her fully melanated, of course. You know, I mean, she has been working with the Red Jennies for the last 10 years, pursuing Solus, chasing people over rooftops, pulling people in with her grappling hook and then kneeing them in the face. So I don't want to make her look haggard, but definitely sun-kissed and rosy and like she's been outside putting in work, maybe a bit more worn. There's no scar pattern that's perfect, but the spirit is there with the facial scars, and I've also noticed that the elven ears are quite elongated in the Veilguard style, like Balara's will be very long, so I left her ears much longer here too. No facial piercings anymore, which is totally fine. More Spartan, which makes sense. For the body, she's thin with wiry warrior muscles still. I gotta say, I really like that the music in this character creator is from Inquisition. We've got the In the Fade music going now, and then I think it'll switch to the Discovering Skyhold score. Those aren't their actual names, but it's nice, taking it back. So I'm gonna mute my mic now and let us listen to it. Okay, I actually am gonna punch back in before we get to hair, because if you know me, you know I have a habit of changing hairstyles a lot. I just think our hair can really reflect who we are, not only our heritage, but also where we are in life. And it's one of the few things that we can change about the way we look in an instant. So when a character's worldview, or even their mood, changes, I change their hair. This preset began with one of these long straight styles, which are pretty, but this shaved side style is much closer to the look that Aislin had at the end of Trespasser, just more textured, which if you look back at her episode 0 of the Inquisition playthrough I did with her on my channel, she did have more wavy curly hair before I joked that Josie asked her to please do something with it before she met with the nobles, to which she replied by chopping it off. Then she grew it out again, she curled it all fancy for the Winter Palace to fit in so that she could play the game. She cut it again after the breakup with Solus. Rather than hiding her face, I felt like she would want to show the world that she no longer had a Valenslin, almost like she was daring people to ask about it, which it seems crazy to say that she was picking a fight with her hair, but that's really how I felt she would do it. So anyways, that's just to say that we really could have gone with any hairstyle, but I like this one. And I may not change Mira's hair as often as I typically have in the past or have a habit of doing, mostly because there were only a couple other hairstyles that I liked from Meravas, but we'll see. I might change it. Again, I let the character tell me what to do. And now I'm just fixing her makeup since I accidentally reset it, so I'm moving it back to those warm tones I mentioned before. Alright, I believe that's close to what I had before. Sorry, I went back and forth a good bit there, but I think we got it. And now tattoos, scars, and paint. No facial tattoo, no Vaseline, because Solus took it away. And I thought these scars looked the most like battle scars. I didn't change the color. And no face paint. Good deal. Aislin used the American voice, Sumali's voice, so let's hear that again.
It can't end like this.
Oh my gosh. Please say that to Solus. I can't wait. Okay, Inquisitor Lavellan came from an elven clan in the wilderness. An able hunter, her skills were put to the test, battling demons and other monsters as head of the Inquisition. Yep. Now the choices. Our Solus romance. He possessed knowledge beyond any mortal, yet even the Dreadwolf could not foresee what it would mean to fall in love. Though Solus hid his past from the Inquisitor, the more time they spent together, the more precious that time became. Their connection was passionate and undeniable. Solus mourned that his duty to the past forced him to leave her in the end, but the Inquisitor knew what they had might not be so quick to fade. Love the double entendre. And Inquisition disbanded. The Inquisitor made a rare decision to give up power before it was corrupted any further. She saw that the Inquisition had grown so large it had become easy for others to misuse the many resources at its disposal. The Inquisitor disbanded it all and let her people choose new paths of their own. Yep. Ooh, wrong direction. And no, she didn't vow to stop him, vowed to save him. Solus vanished in order to put his plans into motion. The Inquisitor refused to give up on him. The Inquisitor believed she saw genuine regret in Solus and that he didn't truly want to go through with his plans. She vowed to save her friend from dooming both the world and himself. The Inquisitor's influence had diminished, but she still had contacts who began searching for the Dreadwolf. The Hidden God. Well, folks, that is that. I am suddenly feeling some anxiety. It's excitement, not anxiety. If we're gonna have a chill time together, first playthroughs are always just for fun and for exploration, so it's gonna be a good time. So I'm gonna send us into the prologue, and Meravas and I will see you there for episode 1.